We are now going to talk to Alex in Australia. And you say you came to the conclusion that a God exists, scientifically and philosophical arguments. So, Alex, convince us. I'm excited.
Yeah, but first of all, hi Kenneth and Katy, and I love the cat,
Hi.
by the way.
Thank you.
Well, first I just want to say that I used to be a born-again Christian. However, I couldn't, continue to believe and justify some of the outrageous claims that's in the Bible. And when I was a born-again Christian, I was sort of brainwashed into not liking transgender people and that, and I just had to get away from it. I just couldn't stand the hypocritical, just outrageous claims they made. So I just wanted to put that out there that I love transgender individuals. I'm married to my wife and everything, but I love transgender people, and none of them have ever done anything wrong to me.
Wicked.
But anyway, so basically, I've studied a few religions, and some have stood out to me as being evil, and so some are evil in what they're preaching. For example, Jesus' death and his, he was basically a human sacrifice, and the pastors and all that, they expect everyone to believe and justify a human sacrifice as being necessary for their salvation, and which is just totally ridiculous to me.
There's definitely quite a few religions that have obviously garbage things.
Yep.
But so what's led you to keeping the belief in God without these religions? Because sure, there's some evil religions and there's some arguably less evil religions. But then, so do you follow a religion, or is this your sort of separate belief in God in general? Or
I also I have to interject because just really, really quickly, Alex, because it sounds to me like, and I don't want us to get off on a tangent here, but as you were saying a lot of the things that you were just saying, I kept thinking that the horribleness of a proposition has nothing to do with whether or not it's true.
Right.
So a claim like Jesus died for your sins, and if you don't believe in him, your ass is getting thrown into hell. That sucks. But to me, the question is it true?
Right. I don't want to go to hell if it's real.
No.
Yeah. So I just want to plant that flag there in case anybody was listening to this, because it's a common thing for people to pick and choose what they believe based on what is or isn't horrible to them. But if somebody told me, hey, there's a history of heart disease and Alzheimer's in your family, I could be like, that's terrible. I don't want to believe that shit. But the thing is, that's objectively true. So, I have to account for that. And if I were to say, well, I don't want to believe that because that's terrible, I'd be in trouble. I'd probably miss some doctor's appointments that I shouldn't miss. So I just gotta put that out there.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I haven't demonstrated yet why I believe in a God. I basically believe in a nameless God that has no name. So by doing that, it gives people a chance, like religious people, it gives them a chance to drop their pride and believe in a nameless God instead of a God with a name, because it's like if there is a God, I think it's one God, but the way I came to believe that is because I was on the show not long ago, and I was talking about a car accident that my family had, and I experienced sort of like a divine intervention. But basically, through my research, I studied like the underlying fabric of the universe is a mathematical construct that is proven to be true, like the Fibonacci spiral, which is pretty much proof of an extremely intelligent mind behind the universe of life form.
Hang on, I'm not convinced of this.
how is
I
that?
don't think like the Fibonacci spiral and the Fibonacci sequence is just a property of numbers. I mean, we could have an argument about whether like maths is invented or
No, it's
discovered,
like
perhaps,
order.
but like I don't think it's proof that there's a mind behind anything. I mean, maybe maths exists without humans or any other mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
before
understand
there was
what
any
you're
life in
saying,
the
and
universe, you still
yeah.
had roughly circular things, which had, and pi was still a important number for working out all of the various things of that, and that there was no mind there to consider them.
Well, basically, it's order. There is like in the underlying fabric of the universe, there is order, and order.
What does order mean? What do you mean by order?
There's that, like the Fibonacci spiral, and it displays order.
What's ordered about the Fibonacci spiral? I mean, there's order in the number line.
Well,
for it. Like we can have. Well, what does that mean though? I mean, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Like,
the natural numbers aren't random, are they? But I mean,
no, that's random. Like counting 1 to 1,000 or something. That's random. But
what's random about that?
Like the Fibonacci, the Fibonacci, because you could use numbers. If you're counting 1 to 1,000, you can use numbers to come up with many different problems to solve. But I'm talking about order, like the Fibonacci spiral.
It's just another number sequence.
You've mentioned the Fibonacci spiral and the sequence here. I just want to ask you a very direct question. What is the Fibonacci sequence? What is it?
Hello, you still there?
Yep. I asked you what. Yeah, I'm asking you, what is the Fibonacci sequence?
It's basically it's like a magical set of numbers called the Fibonacci spiral, and like it's a golden, there's a golden ratio. Like you can see it in seashells. You can see it in the way plants.
So sorry to cut you off again, but you're overcomplicating. What I asked you is just what is it, and it's, if I may, it's a description of something that we observe, right? It's a tool.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So we observe
like the
certain
galaxy. Yeah.
Yeah, we observe certain patterns in reality, and we refer to that as order. All right. We see that reality performs in certain ways. There are things that we can know about how numbers work, about how certain yeah, I mean that's like essential to our survival as a species is that we observe patterns. So how do we get from we observe patterns in reality, or there are patterns to be found in reality, to God?
Okay. Well, it's very simple. Like patterns in our reality whether it's a seashell or the way a flower is made, or the way a galaxy looks like, it's all the same as the Fibonacci spiral. And
there are loads of other patterns, aren't there?
Which is, but
like there are loads of different
order
mathematical patterns.
Is a demonstration of intelligence. There has to be intelligence that designed that.
I don't agree with that claim that
yeah.
there has to be intelligence. Like, I don't see why there has to be intelligence for, like, the Fibonacci sequence is just a sequence of numbers, and there are an infinite number of sequences of numbers, and some of them show up in nature and some of them don't show up in nature. I don't really see what's so special about that.
Yeah. And the question is, it's just a very, very simple question is how do you get from we observe reality performs the way that reality performs. Reality is the way reality is. Therefore, there's an intelligence behind it. That therefore doesn't. There needs to be some demonstration of that.
Okay. Well, can I just ask a quick question? Are you guys actually interested in if there is a God or not? Like, what's your stance on that?
Yeah, I am interested.
Or do you not care?
Yeah, I'm interested. Well, I'm interested for two reasons. One is... sorry, Alex. I'm interested in a God for two reasons. One is just because of purely interest of how the universe works. Like, I want to know where the universe came from and if there's a God that's interesting to me. And secondly, if it is one of these maniac gods that has created some kind of hell to torture me in, I kind of want to know what the rules are. So yeah, I have two reasons: interest and fear of malice.
and for me, it's just I want to believe true things. So if there is a God, if the claim there is a God is true, then I want to believe it. And if it's not, then I don't.
Yeah. Well, like when I've been doing my research, when I broke away from Christianity, and like you could call it, I fell away, but I just don't believe that the real God would hate transgender people, for example, or atheists or anything. Like, my parents were atheists my whole life. Like, since I was born, my parents have been atheists, and they are so good people. They're definitely not going to hell. Like, and that's the same
but
thing with transgender people.
It sounds like you've fallen
real.
back into that exact same thing I was talking about. It may be the case that God is real and that God hates atheists. The question is, when is it time to believe a claim like that? That's the big question.
Okay. Well, the last time I was on the show, I said, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And and the host, I can't remember his name, but he said the chicken, and I said, yeah, I think the chicken too. But anyway, it sort of blows your mind. You just get a mind blank. And he asked me why. Like, he said, why? And I said, you asking me why is just like me asking what came before the Big Bang. And he said, I just don't know. And I said, I don't know either. And then the other host said, why do you care, like, that there's a God or not? And that sort of gave me a bit of a mind blank when he said that. And I thought, yeah, why do I care? But since then, up till now, I've rectified that problem in my mind, and I care because it might not be real. Like, God might not be real or anything, but I really want it to be real. And
right,
like for a heaven to go to or whatever. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but when someone looks at the sun, like, through a safety lens, that some people might see randomness and some people see order. And I see order. And like if someone
It's
paints
pattern
an
matching,
abstract
isn't it?
painting, the painting is abstract, but the fundamental underlining subatomic particles that make up that painting is orderly. So
But that's like the truest type of random, like, is subatomic particle locations. I mean, they're all over the shop. I feel like if someone says to me what is random and what isn't random, I think I'd almost take the opposite stance of you. I'd say, things like maths and sequences and number stuff, that's all not random at all. It's like the definition of order. That's what ordinal means, is numbers in an order. Whereas something like subatomic particles is when we want to generate random numbers on computers and we want a true random number, that's the kind of thing we do. We try and just have something that detects heat radiation or something because it's so random and unpredictable. So I feel like I guess I know what you're saying is
Yeah.
it feels like electrons are negative and protons are positive, and there's some kind of rules there that we've observed for whatever reason. But I guess maybe order and randomness have a different kind of meaning to you, to how I would use them.
Yeah, I mean, even in the
Yeah.
I'm looking at the image behind Katy with the it reminds me of I live in the United States in the Midwest, and it's not uncommon for me in the morning to come outside and for the windshield of my car to look like that, because there's little frozen fractals all over the place. And there's an order to it, but is there a mind behind that, or am I observing how moisture functions at certain temperatures?
Yes.
I'm
It's a
still
product of
wondering.
the conditions.
Right.
I
I'm
mean,
still
what
wondering
is
how you get from there's order in reality to there's a mind behind reality.
Okay. Like it's a set of like with the experience I had in the car accident, that opened my eyes to that there's some other force out there that we.
Let's stop there. Hang on. Let's stop there, because you mentioned this earlier, and I've just got to dig in. So, what happened with the car accident, and how do you know there was a God involved?
Well, it was a very serious accident. I was in the car with my mum, dad, and my two brothers, and one of my brothers was a baby, and then we were pulling a camper trailer behind us. My mum's going 120 kilometres an hour on the highway, and then she lost control and went onto this like a ditch, and then the car just started flipping like over 10 times, and then as the car was flipping, like it was flipping fast, but as the car was flipping, it was like slow motion. Like it was really like slow motion, and something, whether it's God or not, but something like audibly told me to grab your baby brother, grab him, and because he got flung out of the baby seat as the car was rolling, and I grabbed him, and if I didn't grab him, he would have been squashed underneath the car and died. But yeah, like it like that. Like I got PTSD from that event, and like I only like 2.5, 3 years ago, I stopped crying about it. Like when I talk about it, like it was a big deal. And but anyway, there was another experience I had as well.
Well, let's just focus on the one. Let's just focus on the one. So there's your family goes through a traumatic event. You're going through this car accident. The car's flipping. Your experience was hearing an audible voice telling you to grab your baby brother, and you do. And so I'm assuming, I'm hoping that your baby brother survived the ordeal and is fine. Yeah.
Yes, he did.
So, okay. So what can we know? What conclusions can we draw given the information that we have here?
Well, there's no way that I can, there's definitely a supernatural aspect to what experience I had. Because
how do you figure?
I
Go do the because
no
because
Yeah.
there's no other
Sorry, say that again.
explanation of how that.
That's it.
Because I was only 9 years old at the time.
All right.
I was only 9, so I didn't have the knowledge or anything to do, because it's like you could imagine like driving very fast and then it starts rolling like over 10 times. That the G forces in that is unbelievable, like the G force. And and me being 9 years old at the time as well, I had no idea like of what to do, but somehow, like, to me, time seemed to slow down, like it sort of slowed down to the almost stopping. Like I just like it really, like, it scared me too. Like it freaked me out, like when that happened. But yeah, the other event was.
Hang on. Let's stay on this event, Alex.
Because this is like what you just put on the table is important. So, and for those who didn't hear, because it was a little bit muffled, it sounded to me, correct me if I'm wrong, like you said there's no other explanation other than a supernatural one.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So when you said that, people watching this may have seen my sort of like eyebrows go up, because you're falling into a trap here. So you'll hear the word fallacy thrown around a lot on like atheist shows, but we don't do a good enough job most of the time of explaining what a fallacy is. Okay, so a fallacy is when someone makes an error in reasoning. So their conclusion is not justified by however it is that they're getting there. Okay, so if someone were to say, I believe X because there's no other explanation, you have not justified your conclusion. Okay, there's no reason for you or anyone else to think that your conclusion that there was supernatural intervention here is true. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
So like the important thing here is there's no other explanation that you've considered. Like that, there could be loads of explanations. I mean, maybe one of the explanations is there was aliens, or maybe one of the explanations is like a wizard was involved.
Yeah.
Like they seem kind of ridiculous, but there are other possible ones we could.
They are equally, the wizard hypothesis is equally justified as the God one in this scenario. We have as much evidence that it was a wizard as we do that it was a god.
Yeah, I think with most of these claims, you can say, well, of course it was a wizard. There was no other explanation.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, what about God? I'm like, well, of course it was aliens. There was no other explanation. Yeah. And in order to make the claim there is no other explanation, I mean, you need to be able to rule out that it definitely wasn't a wizard. And you need to be able to rule out that it definitely wasn't aliens. Yeah. And how do you do that in a way, like if you've got something that can rule out there isn't a time-traveling wizard called Gary, then how can you not use that same set of reasoning to rule out God? That's kind of the important thing here. And if you can't, like, if you don't have a way of ruling out Gary the wizard, then that's still on the table, and we can't make the claim that it was a god.
Right. And notice too that I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there's no reason to think you're right.
I think we've lost Alex there.
It was just getting good.
I know.
Damn it.
But yeah. Well, thanks for your call, Alex. And maybe you'll see this.
I bet it was Gary who dropped the call because he hates when we bring him up.
We're on to him. We're on to you, Gary.
Gary.
We're on to you,
Gary.
Just one thing, just because I looked up when we're talking about spirals. There are actually lots of different types of spirals. Fibonacci isn't the only spiral, obviously, but also there are all different types of spirals that show up in nature. So there are lots of different number patterns which describe spirals. So for the Fibonacci sequence, for anyone who doesn't know, is where you start with 1 and 1, and then you just add the previous two numbers together. So you get 1 and 1 is 2, and 1 and 2 is 3, and then 2 and 3 is 5, and then 3 and 5 is 8, and so on. But you could also pick another number sequence. You can just make these number sequences up. Like every time I'm going to double it, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. And some of these patterns will create a spiral if you draw them in a way that does. And some of them show up in nature and some don't. And that's cool. But as we were saying, it doesn't really follow there's an intelligence. But that was quite a long call, and I got distracted. As soon as someone talks about maths, I get all hyped.
It was just starting, because I mean, and I was hoping that we would get to sort of the reasoning here, because that's what matters the most on this show. It's not the what you believe as much as the why. So, excuse me, the why for other people listening of, well, I don't know what it is, so I guess God fills that gap. That's if you care about whether your beliefs are true, that is a problem.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
I would try and sneak in. Oh, are you filling some kind of, we could say, gap with maybe your God there, and it's like, oh, I wonder if there's a term for that.